In case anyone is interested, this is the vlogging camera that I'm currently using, although you can't really see it properly with me holding it like that. So let me try that. So it's the Sony Alpha A7 Mark II with a Zeiss FE full frame 24-70 f4 lens, and then I just used the little microphone on the top. And this is my current setup, and it's quite heavy. And that small clip I filmed on the Sony RX100 Mark V. I'm not sure how well you can see it. And when I bought this RX100 Mark V, I was thinking and hoping that I'd be able to, use this a little bit more for vlogging and things like that, but there's no external microphone socket. There's just no way to put a microphone on it. So of course that means it's just impossible to get away from wind, so apart from the baked beans. So I used it a couple of times, and I've never used it, since, a couple of times a long time ago. So it's kind of been superfluous to requirements. And when I'm using this camera, the Alpha A7 full frame, I have to say it's a very, very nice camera, but it's quite heavy to hand hold for very long. I think I'm probably getting a bit weaker as well. As I said, I'm not getting out quite as much these days, and maybe it's to lift more dumbbells or something, but it's quite heavy, to hand hold in its current setup. So I'm actually quite interested, and I may very well switch or swap that and this. It's kind of, it's not like a Rolex where you can maybe hang on to some of or most of your money, or maybe even gain a bit. Cameras and lenses, they just go down all the time. But what I'm thinking of doing is that RX100 and this setup, exchanging both plus some money as well, unfortunately, for an Alpha A7, but I'm probably gonna get the same lens as this, but just in the crop sensor format. I could save even more weight and get the little pancake lens, but I'm not a huge fan of those. I know some people like them. I think Chris Townsend likes them a lot. I have to say I just prefer these bigger, slightly bigger lenses, and I think that setup, whilst it's not significantly lighter than this camera and lens is around about 950, 970 grams, plus the microphone, which is quite small. And the Alpha A7 with the same lens, but the cropped lens, as it were, I think was about 700 and a bit grams. So it's almost 300 grams less, which isn't a significant weight, but it's almost a third lighter, and I think that might make a little bit of a difference. Also, this is a 24-70 lens, which means it will just do obviously up to 70. The crop sensor lens is 16-70, so the 16 obviously translates into 24, the same as this, but the 70 I'm guessing adds 35 on because it's crop sensor, so I'll actually take that lens to a 105. And not that I very often you know, zoom into anything, but on the crop sensor at 70 I could zoom in more onto Lassie. So maybe it wouldn't just be, you know, a weight saving, there'll be a zoom saving there as well. So that's kind of where I'm thinking of going. And of course the pancake lens I believe is 16 to 50, which would probably be more equivalent to what I've got on here now, and is also a variable 3.5 to 5.6. But I quite like the stable f4. So that's what I'm thinking of doing sometime in the next month, is swapping this setup and that small camera, which I don't use anyway, for an Alpha A6400 plus a 16 to 70 f lens, and I hope that it's lighter enough than this, because I've been hand holding this now for a while and I'm starting to feel the weight of it, so I'm hoping that it'll be lighter, as you know, that's the main thing. I'm just trying to save a little bit of weight for hand holding. I think I'm getting too weak and feeble and fat in my old age. Right, okay, I think it's time to have something to eat and drink. I might just do this as a separate video because it's kind of like, you know, a separate entity. So back to camping now. Just an add-on to my camera section. Just an add-on to my camera section. One of the other reasons let's try and have it so you're not pointing right at the sun. One of the reasons why I went with this setup in full frame is I've got a Nikon setup in full frame, and I do like full frame cameras. I tend to prefer them to cropped sensor cameras. It's just personal choice really, going back to when I had the D700, the Nikon D700. And and I thought when I was doing camping and walking and things like that, I would take photographs at the same time as video. And whilst that could potentially happen, you know, in the future, I've never really taken photographs as such on this setup. It's mostly just being video with the very rare photograph. So that's another reason why. So that's one reason why I went with this full frame setup, was for photos. But as I'm not taking photos, I may as well also think about dropping down sensor size to the cropped format. And of course a cropped format sensor also does excellent photographs, I know. So before you all scream and shout and say the crop sensor is as good as full frame, of course it is in its own way. It's just a personal choice. And like I said, my original thought was that I would take photographs, and I wanted a full frame camera for doing that. I don't really see that changing anytime soon, so I may as well, you know, drop down a sensor size, save a bit of weight, and then if at any time I want to take photographs on it, then obviously it's still an excellent setup, equally as good as anything else for taking, you know, taking still photographs on. So I just wanted to add that in just to explain, because you know, my thought processes behind why I went up to full frame. Weight, didn't really take the photographs, probably worth saving some weight and dropping back down again. Cost a bit of money, but oh well, that's life. So that's just a little add-on there. I'll stop waffling and I'm a tea now. Okay, so this is the camera that I'm exchanging things for. This is the Alpha A6400. and the 16 to 70 lens f4, and this was the camera I had before, the A7 with the 24 to 70 lens. And you can see side by side there's quite a little bit of a difference there, and it's around about 300 grams lighter as well, so it's around about a third lighter.
Oh, okay.
So bye bye to that one, and welcome to this one, and goodbye to this one as well.